I'm Trinity and this is TV with Trinity. Welcome or welcome back. And my personal second favorite season is almost upon us. Summer, we have about 2 weeks at this point left. And so this week we are talking summer movies. I have three categories: movies about family, movies about friendship, and movies about love. I did this last year on TikTok, but I have a way more extensive list now. So let's dive into it. Okay, so like I said, our first category are movies about family. First, I have Cheaper by the Dozen 2. I love both of these movies, but Cheaper by the Dozen 2, a family of 12 that is growing apart and about to be all on their separate paths, decides to take one last summer trip to their lake house, or a lake house that they used to go to when all of their kids were little, and they end up getting back into a rivalry with the family across the lake, and it is just absolutely hilarious and one of my favorites. Next, I have the classic The Parent Trap. Obviously, this had to be on the list. Twins separated sort of at birth by their parents. Still don't know why I did that. Very questionable decision. But they are reunited one summer at camp and decide that they are going to scheme to get their parents back together in switching places. This is one of my favorites. I've always loved it. And it's young Lindsay Lohan, like one of her first roles, I think, if not her first. And she does a phenomenal job. And all of the camp sequences are just like some of the best. Like it just screams summer. Next, I have a double feature with Mamma Mia and Mamma Mia 2. Here we go again. This is about Sophie. In the first one, she's getting married and decides that she wants her father to walk her down the aisle and to figure out who her father is. So she writes letters to the three men who could possibly be her father without telling her mom. And in the second movie, we are seeing how the mom met and interacted with all these men during their summers in Greece. And as of right now, this is the closest I'm getting to Grease in the summer, so obviously it had to be on the list. Moving on from Mamma Mia, I have the Hannah Montana movie. I grew up with Hannah Montana, so I was obsessed with this movie when I was little. I learned the hoedown, throwdown, and everything. But when Robbie Ray thinks that Miley is getting too big of a head when it comes to all of her Hannah Montana stuff, he decides that they are going back to Tennessee for the summer so that she can get a reality check. And at first, she's really upset about it, but she eventually reconnects with her roots and learns to love Crowley Corners and just being Miley again. Next, I have a Goofy movie. When Max is about to be done with his school year, Goofy gets it in his head that he is going down a bad path, so they decide to go on a road trip so that Goofy can spend some quality time with Max and hopefully get him back on the right path. And somehow they end up performing on stage with the pop star of the movie. If you've seen it, you know, and it's just that song, iconic, 10s across the board. Next, I have Father of the Bride Part 2. This could also technically be a double feature, but I feel like Part 1 gives more fall winter vibes, so we're focusing on Part 2. This movie takes place 4 years after the events of the first one, and Annie tells the family that she's pregnant. George and Nina don't think they're ready to be grandparents yet, but life starts hitting them a little fast. They find out that Annie's pregnant, they get termites have to move out of their house for a little bit, and then they find out that Nina is also pregnant and just a few weeks behind Annie, and so it's all about them dealing with this throughout the summer before the girls have their babies. Last in my family category is RV. I feel like this movie is so underrated, but I absolutely love it, so you definitely have to watch it if you haven't seen it before. This is about the Monroes, and they're supposed to be taking a family vacation to Hawaii, but Bob, played by Robin Williams, finds out that he needs to be working and go to a conference while they're supposed to be on this trip, and in order to not disappoint his family, he decides that instead they are just going to go on an RV trip. One, so that he can continue to work without telling them, and two, to hopefully reconnect them because they've become a little bit dysfunctional. And I think this movie is absolutely hilarious. Robin Williams, who's funnier, but also Kristen Chenoweth is in this movie, Josh Hutcherson, JoJo, like stacked cast, and they are all hilarious in it. Next is the Friends category, and I couldn't start off the Friends category without talking about High School Musical 2. Obviously, it is summertime for the Wildcats, and so they all need summer jobs. Troy is able to get them all hired on at the local country club. This derails Sharpay's plans, though, to get Troy away from Gabriella for the summer, but not completely because obviously things still go awry, but it always works out for the Wildcats in the end. And next, I have the animated Lilo and Stitch. I love this movie. I think this was probably my first favorite movie ever because I was born in 2001. This came out in 2002. But when a alien crashes down into Earth and Lilo is looking for a dog to adopt, they meet and Lilo adopts Stitch, not knowing that he's an alien. And it's all about her learning how to handle him, while also Stitch running away from the other aliens that are trying to arrest him. Moving on from Lilo and Stitch, I have another double feature, and this is The Sisterhood of Traveling Pants 1 and 2. When four best friends are about to spend their first summer apart, they find a thrifted pair of jeans that magically fits them all, so they decide to send the jeans around the world basically on their summer vacations, and we get to see how the jeans interact with all these girls and keep them connected. Next, It's Not Summer Without Mermaids, which brings me to Aquamarine. When two best friends meet a mermaid that washed up during a storm, they agree to help her find love in order to get wishes and to help her prove to her dad that love does exist so she doesn't have to be in an arranged marriage. And I love this movie so much. I think it's the cutest thing. Now I have another double feature and DCOM. This is Camp Rock 1 and 2. Mitchie spends the summer at Camp Rock. In the first movie, it's just about her learning to accept herself and her coming out of her shell. And the second movie is Camp Rock versus Camp Star in the final jam. Which brings me to my final pick in the Friends category, and this is Crossroads, starring Britney Spears. Three friends that had drifted apart throughout middle school and high school reunite on graduation night to dig up a time capsule, and one of them invites the other two on a road trip to California, and it's all about them reconnecting and becoming best friends again. And now moving on to our love category, starting off with Monte Carlo. Grace has just graduated high school and has saved up enough money to go on a trip to Paris. So her best friend, and her stepsister, or her new stepsister, make their way to Paris, and they are not on the trip that they thought they were going to be until they realize that Grace looks like an heiress, and so they decide to take this heiress's place, and Grace starts to fall for a guy who doesn't actually know who she is. Next, I have Endless Love. When shy girl Jade meets kind of bad boy David, they end up falling madly in love and decide to spend the best summer ever together before she has to go off to college, but they run into some trouble because Jade's father is not approving of David. Moving on, though, the rest of these movies are book to movie adaptations, so if you want to do a watch and read, you can definitely do that with these. Starting off, we have three Nicholas Sparks movies. First, The Last Song. When Ronnie and her little brother are sent to stay with their dad for the summer, she ends up falling in love with local boy Will, but it doesn't go exactly the way she planned because her father had been keeping a secret from them. Next, I have Safe Haven. When Katie, still running away from her past life, moves to a small town, meets Alex, has to learn to trust and love again, but she's still looking over her shoulder. And if we're talking book to movie adaptations and Nicholas Sparks, how could I not include The Notebook? This is about Noah and Allie. They meet one summer on her summer vacation and fall madly in love, but her parents don't approve. They get ripped away, but eventually reunite, and it is just so sweet, but also such a devastating watch. Next, one of the newer picks on my list, and this is Along for the Ride. This came out in 2022. This is about Arden while staying for the summer with her dad. She meets mysterious Eli, and they spend their summer nights together, learning to have a fun and carefree life, one that she never knew she wanted. And last on the list is Love in Taipei, also a newer pick. This movie is about Ever going on a cultural exchange to Taipei, and she thinks it's going to be super boring and just all studying, no fun. But it turns out that the other kids on the exchange have kind of figured out how to get around the system and still have a good time. And it's all about Ever experiencing this for the first time and maybe some new loves. Those are all of my summer movies. Let me know if you end up watching any of them, or if you have any summer recommendations for me, please put them in the comments. If you want to follow me anywhere else, my socials will be in the description, and I'll see you next time. Bye!